Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Solomon. I'm the tower captain for Breslin Tower in Sewanee, Tennessee, at the University of the South. And I'm here with the mainstay of our ringing effort and band, RayGotko. And
Well, go ahead.
And Ray, would you like to?
Sure. My name is RayGotko. I'm RayGotko. I ring at Sewanee, Tennessee, on our little Breslin Tower. We have a ring of 8, 1,100 weight tenor. I guess I'm the ringing master and the I don't know, belfry master as well, I guess is how that goes. Although they don't let me in the belfry much anymore since my open heart surgery. Anyway, which is a very wise thing to do. Let's see, what would you like to know about us at Sewanee? At Sewanee, we have at present this semester, we have 18 students. And if it wasn't for John and Mike and Brown Cooper, we couldn't manage it at all. We have one student new, absolutely new. Ellie is remarkable. He rang a quarter peal when our visitors were here, and he had never seen a bell in January. And so Ellie is a remarkable young man. Is a computer science major, which is not unusual. Oh gosh, we have a variety of, have some folks who want to continue next year. Have a group from one sorority. It's just a delight to work with. Have one student that we never thought would manage to handle the bell, and by golly, he rang places last week. That was absolute surprise to me. It was like I was going to give up on him and tell him to go somewhere else, and this was not his thing to do. And here's what we said to him. I'm sorry, I will tell me when to shut up, okay? Here's what we said to him, and I said this last week to some folks or 2 weeks ago, and they thought I was a little odd. Mike Keene, who is going to be teaching with me next fall, will have his own section, came up with this wonderful little image, which is swinging. Everyone has been to the park and had on a swing. And you kick your feet at the bottom, okay, to get yourself going, to get yourself up, okay, on each side. And once you're up, you sort of fall with the bell and kick yourself, give yourself enough swing to get up the other side. And that has absolutely solved the issue for so very many people. It's like, oh, that's what it's like. Yeah, you don't pull from the top. You can't do anything about your swing falling. It's gonna fall. Of course, we do help it a little bit. And if you notice trapeze artists, which is the next image that we got with, you will notice they start kicking a little sooner than at the bottom, okay, to get enough momentum to get up the other side. And then they manage to swing this thing in such a way that at any point they would like, or certainly a point of their choosing, they swing hard enough to just sort of settle themselves on their little perch up there above the floor at the circus. And that too worked like a charm. And so I will recommend that to you. I use a lot of whatever image I can manage with whatever's in front of me to give them a sense of what's going on. And that one seemed to be universal across the board. So I will recommend it to you. We teach, we had 16 absolutely new ringers this semester. So we had a lot of practice teaching people how to ring. Anyway, that's where we are. Our visitors, John, tell them about our visitors. That would be good.
Well, I will, and I'll just add, Sewanee offers 2 courses of bell ringing, and it's students get a physical education credit, and so that is kind of the incentive to learn about change ringing and to ring, and the challenge has been probably keeping the students interested, but typically we have 2 to 3, maybe and 4 this year that continue ringing, and so we're still a growing band, but we were 7 ringing the Sunday before last, and yes. That was a first for us during the course of the semester. So that's really a good, a good sign. And probably as Ray could elaborate, our goal is to make change ringing really a tradition among the students. And we are a tradition-oriented university. And so we're trying to add bell ringing to that tradition. And the bells were installed in 2004. So they're relatively young to speak of. But we're getting there, and Ray has just been instrumental in getting us to where we are today. But Tom had asked us to talk about our visitors, and Ed Fucher from Raleigh, and I think also Boston, contacted us several months ago about the idea of coming to Sewanee this spring, and with the goal of improving our ringing skills and help our band, grow. And so he and Quilla Roth and John Mabe visited us the first weekend of April, or the weekend after Easter. And it was just truly a wonderful weekend. And I'm going to share the screen for a minute, and I'll start with
Oh, super.
with the, let me just see if I do this right. And I'm not, here we go. And I'll start at the end, but this will give you an idea of our ringing room. And this was one of the two peals that we rang on Sunday, April 7th. And so there you see Mike Keene, who Ray referenced, Quilla, and a student, Meredith Frazee, and Ed, John, and another Sewanee community member, Keith Henley. And for Mike and Meredith, this was their first quarter peal. And we rang a second one that same day with three other band members participating in the peal.
Oh, excuse me, John. I don't see the pictures. I don't think the share quite worked
Oh,
out.
they're not shared? Oh.
No, it's not on the screen. It's not.
Oh, let me see what
And we
I
just did this in practice, so I know John can. It'll work.
yeah.
Share.
Let me
You go to share and it says screens and it should work.
yes, maybe I didn't. I thought I did that.
Ah, there we go.
Okay, now is
There we are. Super.
okay. Sorry about that. And but here I won't repeat all the names and the like, but here you see our ringing room and Ray's training wheel that I think looks not too dissimilar from yours, Tom. And we share the ringing, for those who have not visited Sewanee, we share the ringing room with our clock, which is a 2000 Seth Thomas clock. And there you see behind Quilla, one of the three clock faces in the, in the tower. And to the right, we have a large monitor, which we use with for instruction and the like. So it's it's a roomy ringing room. But I think overall, it was a very successful weekend. And I think one of the things that helped was having a schedule, which Ed Fucher suggests we do before the visit. And I'll see if I can bring that up.
Right, can I get in for a second? Oh, go ahead. Go.
Oh, sure. You go ahead.
No, go. I was going to say something about the people in the screen, but go ahead. What you're doing, I can do that later.
Okay. And this is the schedule. You can see it.
Yes.
Yeah. That we set up at. So we broke the ringers into three different groups based on pretty much experience, but primarily what the objectives were for each group. And the Group A ringers focusing on methods and a quarter peal, and that was our major goal for the weekend. The Group B, which is all students, focus on call changes and plain hunt, and the Group C, which were at the very beginning level, was improving on ringing skills. And the common goals and objectives that we set were just to advance our ringing skills, improve striking skills, which we spent quite a bit of time with. As I mentioned, listening skills, which is something Quilla emphasized. And then in general, at our dinner meeting, we just asked for input and help for the planning of the AGM and general guidance. And then we broke up let me see, move that. The sessions and classes in the group A, we had ringing up and down in Peel, which has just been a struggle for us, and we did make advances there. Quarter Peel practices, which we did on Saturday, and then we rang 2 quarter peals on Sunday. And Group B rounds, call changes and methods, plain hunts, basto, and plain bob minimus. And then in Group C, ringing up and down and rounds and call changes. And below you see how we scheduled the time here. It was really fully scheduled between the ringing and meals and a little bit of social time. And but we met, the Group A met Friday afternoon, and we rang for 3 hours, maybe a little bit more. And then Saturday, we broke the time slots into an hour and a half segments. And that, I think, worked very well. And then Sunday was, we rang for the, before the principal Eucharist at the All Saints Chapel, the University Chapel, and before that, the quarter peal. And then in the afternoon, we rang a second quarter peal and just also got used to ringing on 8. And so that really worked very well. We pretty much stuck to the schedule, the whole time here. And I think that helped a lot all the way around. And Ray, would you like to add something?
Oh, gee, other than say that was most helpful to the students. Really enjoyed having them here. I was confirmed on a number of things that I do teach, and Quilla reminded me of some other things that are very helpful. One, to make sure that everybody goes all the way down. Point your hands to the floor on every stroke. And I had been remiss at doing that. And it makes a huge difference when that has solved a number of striking problems, of striking at the right place. It's not that they did not have intent to do that; they weren't using the proper technique to make that happen. So technique is a large part of ringing accurately. It was most helpful. Meredith, who was saw Meredith there, she was ringing 3 in that picture. That's she's a senior, and she was ringing inside on quarter peal, and I thought that was remarkable. And John was leading. John Keene, who has been helping all semester. I would not be able to do without him. That's his first time, and he was ringing treble all the way through. And earlier, either later in the day or earlier on Friday, our newest member, Ellie, rang treble on a quarter peal, and he's been ringing since late January. He's absolutely a remarkable intellect, a computer science major, and just like, his brain works a lot faster than either John or mine. It is just remarkable to have him among us. So great fun. Anything else you would like to know about that? Questions?
I have, a couple questions maybe.
Sure.
You mentioned about listening skills. I'm
Yes.
curious what you learned, or just talk about listening, how that has helped, or how that's different than what you've done, or anything you want to say about that.
It has not always been our emphasis, which I'm sorry to say is true. When I first came here, the emphasis was on watching the person before you. It was a very and I listen. I'm an old musician, and so I assume you listen. However, apparently that's not true. But learning to you have to identify your bell, And then if you know your place, you know how many bells should precede you, and that's most helpful. But that always is in with myself concert with watching it with rope sight. If I get both of those together, I'm never wrong. You know, it's very nice. Um, it's different for me. I learned when I left Marietta, where they had just begun in my lessons. When I got here, I learned to ring with a bell, and a bell's never wrong. So um, anyway, I had this steady band to work with, and working with ordinary folk where everybody's not quite on task all the time, it's always been a challenge. Um, it's a learning process here. I think have established this year, every year a little more, a tradition that, well, when you're a new person, you come in somewhere, you know, you find out what everybody's doing and say, oh, I'm supposed to do that. So we are now at that point of where if you come here, you're going to ring plain Bob doubles, right? That's just where we're headed. I was just amazed on, when was it? The last meeting was Thursday, and our newest ringer, who rang treble on a quarter peal, in about 2 tries, rang plain Bob minimus without error, precisely on time and in the right place. And you know, Ellie's just amazing. I had another student like that earlier. Yeah. Anyway, we have kids like that. It's great fun. But learning to ring is learning to hear is. I'm not quite sure how to teach that. It is something you can say, but I don't know how to teach it. If you got some suggestions, let me know.
I have a question. It's not so much about this past the weekend of the visitors, but have you ever heard from Rachel Rogers recently? Because she was like a star pupil, and
Oh, she was. She rang
Rang
a
quarters and-
London Surprise minor with about 4 days of looking at it on the paper, and went down to
Right.
Marietta and just knocked it off the. It was like, that's amazing. Rachel she was at the Federal Reserve as economist in Richmond, and they liked her well enough to send her with a full ride to get her PhD at University of UCLA. And I haven't heard from her since. Okay. But I'd
well,
like to catch up with her. Mhm.
oh, because she was, I mean, I remember ringing with her. She rang a lot of quarter peals,
Yeah.
and she was so keen that she traveled a little bit, and
Yeah.
it feels bad that we should try and figure out how to get her back into the ringing community.
Right. I need
I
to
thought you
find her.
might-
I'm remiss at following up what our graduate said. I have another one, Jay Traves, who rings in Washington, University of Washington, who not quite as talented, but a wonderful tutor, great help to me, and a fine ringer. Because she'd ring in Washington in the summer and then ring with us in the winter, and she was ringing quarter peals before she left. So
is she ringing in Seattle?
yeah, she's ringing in Seattle, right?
That's good. That's perfect.
Yeah,
And
right.
she's energized the band, and a lot of them are coming to AGM.
Yes.
Jay will be coming to the AGM.
Great.
And so with TJ and a bunch of other, so she's very enthusiastic.
Yeah, oh, she is. I love Jay. She's about 5 feet tall, and she can just handle our tenor. It's funny to watch her ring her. It takes all of her weight to ring tenor.
Well, that's exciting. That's very exciting to hear.
Yeah.
Will is here. Welcome. This is good. So we've I think we've kind of gone through a presentation. We're asking questions. And there was talk about listening skills, which I think Quilla maybe prompted during the weekend. So this is good to have you here. I will say one thing quickly, and then let Quilla maybe say some more if she wants. That is, oh, my big deal with listening is connected with counting. So I'm curious if you encourage people to count, or sometimes
All the
people aren't
time.
really sure what that means. So talk about that if you would.
Sure, we count. Say it all the time. Count your place, ring in your place, and don't worry about your neighbor. And that has been of great help. When I have a group at the moment, there are 5 little girls who ring together, and that was very helpful. They're doing quite well. I'm very pleased with it.
Question on that. You
Sure.
probably do this, but when you say count your place, I want people to say, if you're ringing on 6 bells, I want them to count to 6 and emphasize what position they're in. Is that your understanding?
Yes, no, that's what I mean. Right,
Okay, perfect. All right.
right. That you're always counting, and you count to the end, and you count. If you're second place, you know where you are, so you're counting all the way through. And that's been true for our normal band as well. It's been I don't know why it's a difficult thing, just kind of, there's so much going on. Apparently, sometimes that's a mental effort as well. I do not know. Any suggestions from Quilla? Quilla, you were most helpful. Thank you so much for coming down.
We had lots of fun and enjoyed it and would like to come back, but
Oh, always welcome. Do you have any suggestions for teaching someone how to count and ring on in place? Good striking is what I'm after.
yeah, no, not immediately. I'm thinking, I apologize for being late. We were teaching in Frederick, and it's always sort of, you never know getting back there, how long it's going to take.
Well, I will say the thing while you're thinking that what has been very helpful is your insistence that people point their hands to the ground, that they push all the way to the bottom. No, does
that help their counting though?
It helps them ring in place.
That's good.
It helps them ring in place. Okay.
I mean, one thing. Well, I think it varies from person to person, from student to student, what works. And for some people, if there is the opportunity for them to ring by themselves with the simulator, that can certainly help. Well, it gives a sense of rhythm, but that helps the sense of counting. The rhythm and counting are 2 different things, but they go together.
Right.
And, you know, lots of people say, oh no, I can't get in with the simulator. And some people have a much harder time than others. And I'm thinking of, when I say people, I mean learners.
Yes.
But they will surprise themselves. And so that's one thing. And because you have a simulator, that's something that the issues, the time for them to do it individually. Let's see.
Let me quit. Oh, well.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Once somebody has started to count, having them do it out loud for a lot of people, well, because as a teacher, you can hear if they're counting correctly. And for some people, you know, once they're, especially if they're trying to do something, you want to be counting even in rounds, but that gets fairly tedious. But once you start playing hunting, are they counting at the point now? And this is not so much Tom's counting of every beat. This is more counting, saying what place you're in. You know, which if they're doing it out loud, it gives you a clue about whether they're thinking it as early as they need to. Because you need to think it before you need to pull it. And then their brain is, you know, then hearing what you hear to see if you've done it correctly.
Right.
And that certainly helps some, you know, some people that helps a lot, just to be, that's the only, they can't do it without it. If they're trying to do it silently, it doesn't work.
Right.
So now if you have three people trying to do this at once, it gets fairly noisy.
Yes, it's,
But, and I'm thinking of some specific people who, could not, they really need, and eventually after doing it out loud for a while, the volume went down and then they didn't have to do it out loud, but they couldn't, they really were having difficulty. It was as if hearing themselves helped them know that they were thinking it correctly,
yes,
I mean,
yes.
if they say it out loud, the teacher can hear, but
Right.
sometimes it may actually also help the student.
Right. I don't know if this is correct, but this is what has helped. It's a coordination with counting and ringing technique. It seems that if you release the salary on the number before you'll ring in the right place.
Oh,
or
don't do
real
that.
close
Don't,
to
don't
it.
do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Oh,
Don't
Wait,
do that.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
if you, wait,
Mm,
I wasn't sure I understood. When you said if you.
Well, like if I'm ringing bell 3,
Right.
if I don't do this, but I know it kind of works, is releasing the Sally on bell 2, well, my bell will ring on 3. It'll ring real close to it. It'll get somebody close enough that they find the
Yeah.
rhythm.
Yeah.
And the other is bouncing the Sally off the ground will ring the bell, at least in our town. And Tom is very much against that. So tell me about it, Tom.
Well, yeah, here's the thing I tell people a lot is, well, here, one thing I want to make sure, do you know about the counting feature on Able? Have you used that?
Yes, right.
That-
I
that
have
will-
personally, I haven't used it with
Yeah,
students. but
so if that's turned on,
right,
then the ringers have no choice but to count because it's coming in
Right.
their ear. And I think
Right.
that's a good way to get people. I like what Cola said about getting people to do it out loud, because then you know that they're doing right. A lot of times people will say, yes, stop bugging me about counting. Of course I'm counting it, but they're not doing
not
what
really.
I'm really
Right.
wanting
Yeah.
them to do.
right.
So it's good to clarify by
Yes.
saying out loud. So what I tell people, the idea of, okay, here's my philosophical discussion.
Okay.
Is a lot of what's going on is your subconscious is gonna place your bell. If this is a complicated motion that we're doing, ringing a
Yes.
bell, there's a lot going on, right?
Right. There's a lot going on.
And if you try to address that with your conscious brain, you will never, ever get it right. You will never be exactly right. If you release and let your subconscious brain do the lion's share of the work, then that's when you'll start getting it right. And if you're trying to, so the idea, okay, this happens, then pull. You'll be herky jerky, and you won't be smooth, and you won't be right. You'll be close. Yeah, it's not bad for if you want to get a close thing, but I've seen way too many people kind of do that and try to let the conscious brain do all the work, and it's the wrong approach, I think. So the subconscious brain can just make mincemeat of this type of thing. It knows when to pull. But
Okay.
as soon as you introduce the conscious brain doing all the work,
Doing all the work. Right.
it just won't work. And
Well-
the idea of that happens, that I hear that bell, then I pull is an
No, that
entirely
won't work.
conscious
No,
brain.
that won't
It
work at
doesn't
all.
work well.
No,
Well,
that
but
won't
you
work.
said it did. But I don't know. What do you say? on
No,
that?
this is, I'm not, when you're counting, it
Okay.
has nothing to do with listening. If you're counting and you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, and I'm bringing 3 or 4, I'll take 4 at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've already started down, but when I release the Sally at the bottom, it will ring on my number. It just will, and that gets somebody in the ballpark, and then they don't need to do that. Because I guess what you would say, subconscious begins to take over and say, oh, that coordination between the physical motion and hearing the sound
Yeah.
is
You have to
is
allow
a
that
really
to
odd
take
thing with
over.
ringing bells.
Yeah, right. You have to be open to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that your physical action precedes by a long shot
Sure.
when it's going to ring. Right?
Great
But you
share,
get
great.
into a rhythm. You get into a rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thanks. You're in the question and answer session.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I've watched Mac in our tower, and she is always mathing the numbers.
Right.
So depending upon what she's ringing, she's always mathing it.
Ooh.
And she's not loud. She's doing it to herself very
Right.
quietly. And I don't know, maybe Charles had told her to do this at one point in time. But she does do a lot of reading, and she maths it, and she's right on, pretty much.
you said math is M-A-T-H or
Math it.
Mac,
Wait, Mac is the person.
M-A-C-K. The person's name
Mac.
is Mac.
Yeah, but what are they doing? That's fine.
Yes.
So it's not audible, but she's.
Right,
Right.
yes.
Yeah,
Derek does the same thing.
But-
My good friend Derek.
And she'll do that with all the methods. She's ringing Grancer or Plain Bob or Plain Hunt. She's doing it every stroke. So it works for her.
My sound paused right as you had the explanation of
Oh,
what
okay.
was going on. So this is what's, it sounded like you said, Mac is her name, and it sounded like you said she is mathing her
Mouthing.
numbers.
Mouthing.
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 Thank you.
Mouthing.
That makes
Yeah.
much more sense. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry.
But one thing you said, Tom, I don't agree with completely, but I'm not sure what it was. It was something like the subconscious doesn't do this paying attention to to another sound. And I think the subconscious does, which is why oftentimes you'll notice if somebody's, particularly in something like that has a plain hunting, like Grants or Plain Bob, if you're especially kind of triples or major, if somebody's course bell is striking badly, like is always too quick, very often that their after bell will do the same thing. And I think that's because of this subconscious. I think we are very aware that usually that actually when we pull is when the bell, in my mind, two bells in front of us is sounding.
Yes.
I think the because this isn't a conscious thing, but I've noticed this happen, that which is why you get I think part of why in Tidum, if you go into the Tidum's change, you get a lot of da-dum, 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 because
Right.
the say on 10, the 5 is too close, and then the 7 ends up too close because it's kind of listening,
Right.
Subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I agree, it's weird what goes on in here, but I think there are things like that do enter in.
Well, it's interesting you say.
I mean, you wouldn't get involved so much in teaching, but I see it
the
fairly
subconscious is going to notice everything. It's
well, one wishes it noticed more at times, or did something about more, maybe.
Well, it might be useful. Sometimes people overthink things,
Oh, yeah.
and then you're dead. There's a kind of
Sure.
rhythm you get into, and at least when you're ringing with a lot of good people, it's just so much fun.
But that's one of the things about working with people with people whose occupation is being a student,
Yes.
because they seem not to overthink as much
Right.
as as people who are
Right.
not in the mode of just learning all the time.
Right.
I'm going to interrupt. Greg is asking me to unmute him, but I don't I think you can unmute yourself, Greg. And I'm not sure what's going on. I'd love to hear what Greg has to say.
Yeah, I mean, because Eileen has
Yeah,
unmuted herself.
there's,
I can mute and
there's
unmute
nothing I
now.
can,
I mean,
nothing I can do, Greg. Perhaps leave and come back in. That's my best.
It's like,
Turn it
reboot.
off and turn it
kind of
back on
thing,
again,
yeah.
Okay, so hopefully I'll be back. All right, what else did you guys talk about besides, what else did you learn that you didn't know before from this weekend?
Well, one thing I think it was interesting. I think Quilla and John, we jumped right into playing Bob doubles, and
Yes.
so there wasn't too much time to think about what was being done. So it was a quick pace, but I think that worked very well, especially for the students. And that was probably the biggest step that we that we took. And so it was just Friday afternoon if we just made one big step for most
Yeah,
of the
made a huge step, a huge step.
Mhm.
I will comment on that I always want things actually right all the time. It's very helpful. It was that Quilla, you and your colleagues could manage to say go again, even though we hadn't really done it right the first time. It was just, and after 3 or 4 times around, we got better and better at it. And that's something I learned from you. Like we don't have to stop because we messed it up. Okay, we'll get it next time around, and that was very helpful and has been very helpful with teaching since then. And I will just throw this out for what it's worth. All the time, because these are young kids and they're at school and they're always concerned about being right. And I say, this is not a moral issue. It has nothing to do with whether you're a good or bad person. This is hard to do, and we're here to help you do it. And by golly, you're going to learn how to do it. And they do. And they do.
Greg, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to mute and unmute myself because I'm driving and it'll probably be annoying if I don't. But Zoom says that the host settings don't allow participants to unmute themselves.
If you're calling in, that's probably true. Yeah. Maybe.
I'm not calling in. I'm on Wi-Fi.
I don't know. I don't understand. I'm glad to hear your voice.
You can't find any host setting about that? Okay.
Well, I
Well,
don't know.
we know
Everybody
that
else.
other people have been able to mute and unmute, so that's why it's weird.
Yeah. All right. What I was going to say was that I've actually experimented with trying to teach people to listen to the bells that are striking as they are pulling.
Yes.
And to use that, but then I have to say, and if the striking is bad, then you have to kind of count in your head where the striking should be and be aware of that while you're pulling.
Yes.
Extremely hard for people to do. But I think that people who strike well actually, are very much attuned to the striking of the bells as they are pulling their rope.
Yes, so where you are in
I agree
sequence,
with
yes?
What's that?
As being aware of where you are in the sequence.
No. Be aware of the other bells striking as you're pulling your rope.
Did I say
Right.
I say something that made you think that I was saying something other than that?
No, I was just
Okay.
piling on board Quilla's comment about if your course bell hunting down is off, then that may influence you to strike early or late as well.
Right.
And I think and that's how I think about it.
Oh, okay.
I'm using the striking of the other bells to time my pulse.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to try to ignore striking errors in the other bells in order for that to be effective.
Mhm.
which is part of why it's so much easier to ring with a good band than it is to ring with a mediocre band, because your brain doesn't have to do all of that correcting.
You're correct. Yes.
That's one thing that we commented on with Ray after the visit. It was having three expert ringers and four with Ray, but having three visitors and who are expert ringers makes the ringing a lot easier
Mhm.
for those spaced between the expert ringers, and both direction as well as just
Yeah.
advice while ringing. Mhm.
I'm going to need to leave. I have to travel a little over an hour to my granddaughter's birthday party.
Oh, how old?
24, 20 something, 20,
Ooh,
20
so
23, 24.
an adult party.
An adult party. She got married last summer. Okay. So we're going to her first birthday as the married person. So
Have fun.
we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
I want to thank Willa and her. You were most helpful. Every time I'm around you, I learn something new. And
Well, thank you.
I couldn't. Some things I'm not quite aware of, but pulling a full stroke has, just solved a whole bunch of problems, and it makes me aware of. It's something for me to look at besides listening, and anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, folks. You're most helpful. I'm sorry I must go, but I have a family commitment. Okay?
Very good. Thank
Ray,
you very
I'll
much.
see
Hi,
you.
Ray.
John,
I'll-
anything
I'll
you'd
see
like
you
to say?
tomorrow. And get your granddaughter's age right before you get to Chattanooga.
But getting out, I think she's 24. I think she's 24. I haven't been counting for a very long time. So anyway, so bye-bye. We'll see you again. Okay.
Bye-bye. John, anything you'd like to say before I stop the recording?
No, just thank you very much. It's been very, very, very interesting for me. So thanks for the opportunity, Tom.
All right.
I have a question.
Oh, good.
So have you changed any of the rope lengths since we left?
No, we have not.
Good.
Good. Yeah, our next we have new ropes to be installed, so
Yeah.
we will do that probably after graduation
Yeah.
and install those.
Ah.